Hi there guys, Neil at Italia Autos here. Welcome back to another video. Hopefully you're all doing well. Behind me I have something a little bit different. I have somebody's track car which I'm fitting a stupidly expensive Super Sprint exhaust to. The exhaust has cost nearly £4,000. So in this video I'm going to be fitting it and testing it. I've also got to get it to an exhaust place to have a back box made up and it all sort of be joined together because we've only bought the 3 sections at the front. So let me show you around the car, because it has had quite a few upgrades. So here is the exhaust. It is a extremely precision engineered manifold. A lot of the items are just literally flush fit fittings, so you don't need any gaskets or anything on them, or the joins on the manifold, they just have sort of a spring fit. So what I'm going to be doing today is fitting this, and first of all removing all the old stuff. Luckily it does have the sort of CF2 manifold without the cats in, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to remove the rear manifold without taking the engine out, which should be relatively easy. Hopefully I just need to drop the subframe to get that out. So I'll start with the engine. The engine is a 3.2, which has had a load of work done to it. It's got performance camshafts to it. The heads have been sent off and been rebuilt and made a little bit better for more power. Before the headwork was done, this car was dynoed at 265. So I'd imagine now it's probably about 275 horsepower. By the time we fit the exhaust onto it and get another remap done to it, we would like to be thinking this is pushing 300, maybe 305. Might be a tall order, but until we do the dyno test, we don't know. It's got a strut bar fitted. It's got a Porsche Cayenne or Cayman, I can't remember which one it is, the big one. Throttle body fitted to it, the Auto Delta carbon fibre intake, the Auto Lusso manifold, which has had to be adapted for the larger intake. Brakes wise, it is running the 330 Brembos. These wheels and tyres are not his track car. He does run it on 17s, which would make it a lot better on track. A lot of modifications to the car as well. We've got plastic rear windows, sunroof's been taken out. The boot lid is now plastic. He hasn't taken out the rear seats because I'd imagine on a 156 taking out a lot of weight out the rear would make it too light. The inside we have some very supportive Momo bucket seats. I'm looking forward to getting my frame in those seats. So right, let's get it on the ramp now, get the old parts off and see if we can get the new ones in. On the underside we have an aluminium tray fitted. All the bushes have been fitted with the black series polyurethane bushes. It's had a load of welding work done to it by the look of it, which is understandable for a very old 156. Now the customer has said that the ride on this car is extremely hard with all these black bushes fitted. He doesn't mind it because it is literally just a track car. We do have, it's going to have some rust issues along here really. He did ask me to have a look on the underside of it to see what it's like. We've got bent rails here, but other than that, I can't, yeah, it's got some surface rust on it. But other than that, it's not in too bad of a condition. On the underside, he has had an extra mounting point there put in for jacking. On this side, he has made a nice little oak support, so we can put that there when we jack it up and we don't crush any of the sills. Boot floor is okay. It's got some rust issues coming here. They all do this here around this towing eye point, so it is going to want some work there and a little bit here and here. But yeah, all the bushes on it are the Black Series bushes. I will be taking it out for a ride once the exhaust is done and I'll give you my opinion on it. Those that know me in the channel, I don't really do modding. This is sort of the first car I've had on the channel which is this heavily modified, so I thought it'd be something a little bit different for you to see. To say, yeah, normally I don't bother with modding cars. I just do restoration and keep them as standard as possible. So let's get cracking with this now. Get the under tray off it, remove the front manifold, remove the rear part of the exhaust, front part of the exhaust, and hopefully it comes off easily. Right, the exhaust has been pieced together by the look of it. These are not standard front pipes here, they've been made to fit the manifolds. The flexi pipe's also been re-welded in. O2 sensor, please don't say that's been welded in. It looks as though it's rounded off though. That's your little cat, that's all that's on there. We've still got the standard fitment here, but whether or not it's going to be the right size for the new exhaust, I don't know. I may have to just bodge it, shorten this, lengthen this, just to make it fit so I can then drive it down to the exhaust shop. We have got broken tank straps, and this one's very rotten, so we're going to need to get that sorted for the customer. And the rest of the exhaust, a little bit of a blow there, but that can be sorted out because it's all coming off anyway. And the power flow standard back box. So where I'm going to struggle doing the job is access to the rear manifold. As you can see there is very little underneath here. So what I'm going to need to do is remove the engine mount, remove the subframe bolts, drop it down. I may even have to take it off. Hopefully I don't need to, and I can have enough room to bolt everything on where it is. So now let's get this exhaust off and see how much room I really have. Unfortunately, we had one little problem. The O2 sensor had sort of welded itself to the exhaust, so it didn't want to come out and it was just off. So unfortunately, I've had to cut it. Somebody's had a go at it previously and it's just really just rounded off. So no other choice but to have to get another one of those fitted now. Manifold is down and out. I also had to take the oil pipe off, oil filler pipe, so I can then have plenty of access. But as you can see there, sort of in this light, it's difficult to say because the roof light keeps getting in the way. Now to give me more access to the rear bank, I'm going to undo the engine mounts, which is sort of two 17, one 19mm bolt. The engine will then drop forward once I take out the top mount, and then that'll give me another 2-3 inches of access at the back so I can get to the bolts and undo them. Right, the two engine mounts on the bottom are all loose now. I've removed this engine mount here, and now as you can see I've got a little bit more access to get in there. I am going to remove this cover here, and that should give me plenty of room to struggle my backside off to get those 6 last bolts undone. Now unfortunately the manifold isn't going to come out through the top, so I'm going to have to let go of the subframe, take all the bolts out of it, drop it down a few inches, and hopefully I can waggle it out. But other than that, it's a fairly straightforward job, as long as nothing snaps. The room down here isn't amazing, but there's just enough to get into most of them. The ones on cylinder number 1 are probably the most awkward to get to. And I wouldn't do this with a hot engine. This is sort of reasonably warm now. But yeah, if you've got seized bolts on this exhaust, or you round one off, you're in trouble doing this sort of job, removing the manifold at the back. It does mean engine out or lots and lots of wiggling and struggling around. There we go, that's number 3 off. So give me a few minutes to get the rest off, and then we'll see how we're going to get this manifold out. Right, back underneath the car now. Manifold is all loose and ready to come off, but as you can see, it ain't going to fit out that hole there. And you are not going to get it out the top because there's just not enough room. So I'm hoping without the subframe on, it will come off. So now I've got to put these 2 engine mounts back on, otherwise it's all just going to drop to the floor and make quite a mess. So let me get those 2 engine mounts back on and we'll start getting the subframe off. Okay, I have got the manifold loose now, so let's just try and wiggle it free. What I've had to do on top of removing the subframe, I've just removed all the bolts and pushed it back a bit. I had to undo this engine mount again so I could then push the engine forward a few more inches just to give me that extra little bit of room I needed. So we're ready to start installing some new bits now. Right, I'm going to start with the back manifold first. They have numbered them for me. They've numbered the pipes and they've also numbered the join. So I know exactly what order to put them on. Now, as access is going to be tight, I am going to fit number 1, number 3, and then number 2. Well, on this one, they've number 6, number 4, and then number 5, just so I've got enough access to get in there and put the bolts back on. Now the gasket is already on the other side, so we don't have to worry about that. It's one on, let's just get some bolts and just put them on loosely. Number 2. I mean, I suppose a little bit more awkward, but you could have got the nuts off this side rather than taking them from the top. But personally, I'm glad I did the way I did it, because it's a lot more comfortable than holding your hands above your head for an hour and a half undoing bolts and stuff. It's also quite awkward to get this one on the left hand side because there's a heat shield in the way. And now the final one, I may have to put the nuts and bolts on from the top, but at least we can get it on and in. This was the part I was worried about because of how tight the access is with all these bends in it. I'll get one on at least. Now the gaskets are already on there, and also the inside of the pipes. I've just chamfered the rough edges down a little bit just to make it breathe a little bit easier, but not by much. We're talking less than a millimetre, to be honest. Can I touch the other one at least to get the nut on there? Can't even feel where it should be. Let's go and grab the torch again. It is on, but I can't get to it. I think I can get to it from underneath. Yep. Now I'm just thinking about this heat shield as well, because I'm going to have to put that back on. There are 2 holes for it, threaded holes for me to put it back on there, but I'm going to have to tighten up the manifold first and then put this on afterwards, because there's so much movement in them. I'm never going to line them up. So let's get back to the top of the engine so I can get that on. Right, after a lot of faffing around, I have that heat shield in. I had to take 2 of the pipes off and then sort of wedge it into roughly the right position and then put these 2 pipes back on again. I'm just at the point now where I've put the subframe back on in the engine mount, and I'm going to try and fit this part here now. Not perfectly, but I just want to try and get them over the ends and make sure they go in okay. So what I've done, as per the instructions of the manufacturer, I have just put some copper slip inside there, and they are just secured by pressure of the springs holding them in, which I'll show you in a bit. Okay, that's in now. I've just fitted one of the springs. I've got 2 more to fit, but as access is tight and I can't really get anything in there to film, I'm going to do that off camera. Okay, all the springs are on now. All I've done is modified a screwdriver to make it into a hook, and then I can pull it down and reach them over. So that is done. So now we need to do the front manifold. Just exactly the same as before. So I'm going to pop all these on off camera, and then we can focus on getting these last 3 springs on. support from just support the exhaust from the back. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. A few light taps with a wooden part of my hammer. That should get in there now. That's why I was struggling. Right, before I can do that last one, because it's just way too tight, let's tighten up some of these bolts on the exhaust. Stop it flapping around so much. So it's now the following day. I spent just over 8 hours on it yesterday, so that's how much of a slow process it is to actually fit this exhaust. Maybe it would have been quicker to drop the engine, but no, keep the engine in because it's a lot easier. It's just more time consuming. Everything's in, the springs went on perfectly fine. This top one was a little bit awkward to fit, but I got there in the end by using a little screwdriver and pushing it forwards rather than pulling all the other ones back. I have cut down some O2 sensors, some old scabby ones I had as blanks, but I do need to probably get some more blanks for there. The last part to do now is under here. Everything is ready to go on. We've got this extension piece here, so I need to do that here and then put the extension on. But what I do think is probably going to be the case is this end bit here is going to be the wrong diameter to go on there, but we'll see when it comes together on whether it will fit together or not, and I can drive it down or it's got to go on my trailer. Everything else went relatively smoothly. Doing the manifold nuts up wasn't a problem. The hardest part was lining up that heat shield on the back manifold, the one underneath. You couldn't tighten it up with the manifold tight because you couldn't get it into line, so you had to do it with the manifold loose, which meant it was a little bit more awkward to get the bolts in straight. So after about 25-30 minutes of faffing around, I finally got that done. So let's crack on and get the last few bits done now. So guys, what do you think of the exhaust? Do you think it's value for money for the power output it's going to increase and maybe the extra noise? Do you think it's a little bit overkill? Do you think it'd have been better getting a full exhaust made up independently of Super Sprint? As I say, my judgment is still very open, as I don't normally do modding. It's a new sort of territory for me. This is going to be too far back for the O2 sensor, but hey ho, these are the correct parts apparently. Now, will this fit here? No, diameter's wrong. And that's how loud it is without the exhaust silencers on. Right, This seat's fun to get into for a man of my stature. It's a tight fit, but you ain't going nowhere when you're racing around a track. Getting out's the problem. So here we are, guys. A few days later, it has been to my local exhaust specialist and had the back box all welded up. Unfortunately, we did have to cut that back part of the exhaust to fit the new sports cat in, and a silencer. There's two silencers on it, a small one and a larger one at the back. But as you can see, it's very professionally made. All the welds look nice and strong. We've also got a brand new tailpipe on the back there, which is also the size and dimensions that the customer requested. I've also fitted a brand new O2 sensor. I did have one little issue where the manifold is a little bit too big and it's rubbing on the coolant hose, so I've had to do a temporary repair with some tape and some cable ties to hold it out the way. We are going to do a permanent repair on that. So we're all done now, only one thing left to do, and that is make a noise. Right, let's give it a quick test drive, make sure everything's okay, checking out for vibrations and things like that. But as it's so noisy, it's more of a little bit of a thrill ride to see what it's like with a stupidly expensive exhaust fitted. It's quick, I'll tell you that. You can just feel it underneath the pedal, and I'm sorry for there's so much shake. It's because the suspension's so hard and my camera mount isn't the best. I have warmed the engine up a little bit. Yeah, I'm only taking it up to 4,000 RPM because it's not my car and I'm not going to abuse it. It's quick, I'll tell you that. It picks up a lot earlier than a normal 3.2 would. You can just feel all that extra power under the accelerator pedal, and it's just plenty behind it ready to go. So you can definitely tell this is approaching 300 horses. So far so good. We've got no untoward rattles, knocks or warning lights. The suspension is ridiculously hard. This is my normal sort of test route, and you can tell how much harder the suspension is on this by the fact the camera is doing up and down like that. I'm going to go really slow over these train tracks because I don't want to break my back. Something I wouldn't mind taking on a track day personally. Yeah, keep those revs about sort of 3,000 RPM. That's where the sort of the power band is. Probably actually a little bit higher. God, yeah, it's a hard ride, and I'm surprised they have actually fit into the seat. It's not the easiest to get in and out of, by all means. But then again, this car hasn't been built for ease of use. Hence the hard suspension, the performance camshafts giving it a rough idle, and the bucket seats. Yeah, it's a bit jerky on the lower throttle when you're just sort of manoeuvring around, and that's one of the negatives of a performance camshaft. It's something I could definitely see going around a track rather quick and surprising a lot of cars as well. Just noticed as well, it's got a plastic windscreen as well. So there we go, guys, we are done. Let me know in the comments below whether you think spending £4,600 in total on an exhaust was worth it, or you think it was a massive waste of time. Personally, I think spend your money on what you want, because it's an amazing toy. Just driving it normally on the roads, you can tell it's a very powerful, fun thing to drive. So it's been a pleasure to work on this one and give it a little drive. So let me know what you guys think below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I've also got a channel membership page and Patreon. Please help the channel out by doing some of those for me, and I shall see you in the next video.